Are we on? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. After this, Ikhwani, we come to the last 2 points from the book of Imam Ahmed, and it's kind of repetition from what we already taken or similar to it. So we've already dealt with the overall principle of these last 2 points. He said, Rahimahullahu ta'ala, and from the usul of the Sunnah is that whoever dies, any man or woman who dies, and they are the people of the Qibla, and they die as a muwahid, and the muwahid is the one who testifies to Allah's rububiyah, His lordship. The muwahid is the one who testifies to Allah's al-uluhiyah and His right to be worshipped alone. And the muwahid is the one who testifies and believes in the uniqueness of Allah's names and His attributes. If someone dies as a muwahid, then prayer is performed over him and forgiveness is sought for him. That's point 74. Point 75, and the last point, and from the usul of the Sunnah, is the permissibility of seeking forgiveness. Seeking forgiveness is not to be withheld from that individual who died as a muwahid. It shouldn't be abandoned. We don't abandon praying over him on account of a sin which he committed, regardless of whether that sin is a big sin or small sin. His affairs with Allah Azza wa Jal, the mighty and the sublime. Those last 2 points, like I said, we kind of dealt with them already. And this is coming from the fact that Imam Ahmed once again is ending the book by refuting the Khawarij, who treat the Muslims as if the Muslims are non-Muslims. And they usurp the rights that Muslims have over one another, and they eliminate things. This is from what they do. Allah asked the rhetorical question of وَنَجْعَلْ الْمُسْلِمِينَ كَالْمُجْرِمِينَ. Do we make the believers, the Muslims, like the criminals? So the Khawarij won't give you salams. The Khawarij, they won't eat with the Muslim, they won't invite, they won't accept the invitation. And Imam Ahmed already mentioned from the Khawarij what they do is they won't give the zakat to the leader of the Muslims because they said he's a kafir. And if we give him the zakat, it won't count. But as Imam Ahmed mentioned a long time ago, we give them the zakat. We leave it up to them to distribute the faith or the war booty. That's their responsibility. They established the Jummah. He mentioned that. Anybody who prays the Jummah, then 2 rakats is enough. If he gets up and he prays 2 more rakats, that's an innovation. He mentioned that. So these last 2 points are dealing with the Khawarij, who, again, they don't give the Muslims their rights because they'll make takfir of you. And they'll boycott you in a way that is not permissible, way that's not legislated. He said that this individual, if he dies, he is from the people of the Qibla. That's called in fiqh and in al-Islam, Ahlul Qibla. All of the Muslims are Ahlul Qibla. There's a hadith that the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, anybody who faces our Qibla and he prays our prayer and he eats our dhabiha, then that's a Muslim, like we're Muslims. He has rights over us and we have rights over him. من استقبل قبلتنا وصلى صلاتنا وأكل ذبيحتنا فذاك المسلم له مال المسلمين وعليه ما عليهم. So if an individual, we're doing these things, we're going to judge him outwardly. We're going to give him salams, we're going to visit him, and we're going to have a tarahum on him. He mentioned that this individual deserves that we make istighfar for him and we make a tarahum. Tarahum, number one, is because that's our ummah. He mentioned sallallahu alayhi wa sallam ar-ruhama yarhamuhum ar-rahman irhamu man fil ard yarhamkum man fis sama. The people who are merciful to one another, ar-Rahman has mercy upon them. So have rahmah upon the people on the earth, especially the Muslims. The one who's in the heavens will have rahmah upon you. The example of the believers, مَثَلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي تَوَادِّهِمْ وَتَرَاحُمِهِمْ. The believers, they have rahmah with each other. That's our religion. You don't have to share the blood and be brothers and sisters from the same mother and the father to do that. Muhammad Rasulullah وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ شِدَّاءُ عَلَى الْكُفَّارِ رُحَمَاءُ بَيْنَهُم. Muhammad is the Messenger of Allah, and those people who are with him are tough, strong against the kuffar, merciful towards one another. They're merciful towards one another. The Khawarij, on the other hand, this is not what they do. The Khawarij, they don't give Muslims excuses. They don't give Muslims excuses. They'll give you the worst possible interpretation of any possibility. When they get an opportunity to take out the sword and unsheath it, they're going to do that. They're going to treat the Muslim like the non-Muslim. So this last point, these last 2 points that Imam Ahmed is making about how we're responsible just to do our job. We're going to pray the Jummah behind the Imam that the Muslims have set up for themselves. The regular Imam, whoever is praying in the Masjid that we go into, we're going to pray behind him. And if you see him doing a sin, or you know that that individual is doing a sin, that's not our religion to say, I'm not going to pray behind him. The Eid is the day of the Eid that the leader of the Muslims are saying. In this case, the people are the custodians of the Kaaba. The day of Arafat is what those people say. The Khawarij, this thing takes them to a level and to a degree. You look at it and you say, what kind of religion is that? And that people like that, they won't fast Ramadan with the Muslims because they make takfir of the Muslims. The last thing that he mentioned, rahimahullah ta'ala, was that this individual who dies, then we have to pray over him. And whether his sin is a major sin or a minor sin, that's between him and Allah. So that's our religion. Because from the rights of the Muslims, as the hadith said, the rights of a Muslim and another Muslim are 6. And the last 2 he mentioned, if he becomes sick, then go and visit him. And if he dies, follow his Janaza. So if you're going to follow his Janaza, more than likely you're going to pray over him. So Imam Ahmed is mentioning this point. Seeking forgiveness is not to be withheld from him. Even if he did a major sin, and we do not abandon the prayer over that individual, the salat, we don't abandon it over them. The Prophet said, the haqq of a Muslim is 6. When he gets sick, visit him. When he dies, follow his Janaza and pray his Janaza. That's the Sunnah. If the man was known to be a gambler, he was known to be a highway robber, he was known to be a liar, he was known to be a thief, all of that stuff, yarhamakallah. That's between him and Allah. Praying the Janaza over him is fardul ayn, whether it's a man or a woman, an Arab or non-Arab, a rich or poor, the leader or the non-leader. You have to pray the salah over that individual. And to abandon the prayer over him because he's not from your group or because of a major sin that you perceive that he's doing, and to abandon that prayer over him, you and your group, then this is an innovation. Which brings us to the last point that has to be mentioned. There is no doubt that the Salaf of this ummah, they abandoned praying Janaza over innovators. And if you read their books, they were very, very, very tough in their words as it relates to sitting with innovators, eating with innovators, just being around them. You can find some tough words, but it's not for every Amr, Bakr, and Zayd to just take those aqwal and those statements and to apply them on whoever you want to apply them on. It's not the way you do it, because for all of those narrations, you have other narrations where the Salaf were gentle with people who didn't know. They were gentle, and they debated, and so forth and so on. This thing that has happened to the Salafis today, this is an innovative practice that we have where people are weaponizing, making hajr of people. Because you perceive him as being a deviant and you boycott him. And you don't speak to him. And you don't invite him. And you don't, this is not our religion. I saw a thing recently, I said, they still doing that? Where you want to start a basketball league or football, soccer league, but it's only for Salafis from your masjid. Clear Salafis. What kind of stuff is that? That's not our religion. So no doubt about it. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did not pray over at least two people. Two categories of people, but more than two people. Sometimes, if there was a reason, he would ask the people, does this deceased person have a debt? And if they say yes, he would say, you pray over him. If they said no, he would pray over him. He didn't ask that question for everybody. So there must have been something there to make him ask the question, because he didn't ask that question. And it's not from the Sunnah for the Imam today to be asking people, does this person owe money? Does he owe money? And if we were going to boycott people who owe money, we wouldn't pray on anybody. We wouldn't pray on anybody. So this is really important. Rasulullah boycotted the man who killed himself, committed suicide. Radiyallahu anhu. And he boycotted, he didn't pray the Janaza over a few people who had a debt. A few people. There's a narration that said he didn't make the salat of the Janaza over the one who did the ghulul. And that's when you gave the spoils of war, the money from jihad. You give them to the leader. It's up to that leader to distribute that stuff. And it said that that man didn't give something. So it was found out he did that, and it's narrated that he didn't pray over that individual, and Allah knows best. Allah knows best. Anyway, back to this last point about boycotting, inshallah. Rasulullah boycotted companions who did different things. The three people who didn't go to jihad, he boycotted them. And he didn't speak to them for almost a month. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah boycotted his wives, and he stayed away from his wives for 29 days. He stayed away from his wives. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He boycotted people. It's from the Sunnah. But is this the time to boycott? No, we have to look at that situation and we have to weigh it. And we have to say, generally speaking, this is not the time to be boycotting Muslims, because to boycott them many times just make it worse. But I'm not going to say you never boycott. We have to weigh the situation. We have to weigh it now. Don't be too quick to want to boycott everybody. Don't be too quick to want to stop giving salams to people religiously. Don't be too quick to stop, those things that how people treat innovators. We shouldn't go to people's masjids and treat them like that. Especially from the awam. There are some people in every city, including this city, they are people who are astray. And they're against the Sunnah. They don't want the spread of the Sunnah. They're people, that's how they exist. We got a way even dealing with them. How are we going to deal with them? Some of those people are people who have positions. We just got to weigh the situation. I just warn the young people, wherever you have to be, don't be too quick to take the statements of the Salaf and the actions of the Salaf and misappropriate them, because you're new in the game. 25 years, Salafi's been fighting. 25 years, and here you come new, and you hear this stuff, and you want to just do the right thing, but you don't know what you're doing. Boycotting is not the boycott for everybody. The Salaf did not debate with people innovation. Abdullah ibn Abbas debated with the Khawarij, the first innovators, debated with them. So either they did or they didn't. It's always a context. It's always a nuance. It's always a nuance. Those are the last 2 points of the book. And as I mentioned, we already did these two already when we talked about what the Khawarij used to do as it relates to not acknowledging people in authority. When they made takfir of them, they refused to pray behind them. The leader of the Muslims, they refused to do all of those things that we mentioned. And then that trickled down into regular people. So a regular person comes to the masjid and they refuse to pray behind the imam of that particular masjid because of his madhab or his maslak, or even some of his ideas. But we're not the ones here to dictate and determine, these kinds of decisions. And with that, inshallah, we finished the book, Kitab As-Sunnah of Imam Ahmed. As we mentioned in the beginning of this class, there's some other books similar to this, but this is probably the best out of the lot because it's not too big and it's not too small, something that's doable. Some of those books are quite extensive and some of them are very, very, very short. They have the same name and they make the same points, but for the most part, this is what Imam Ahmed has put forward. You brothers have any questions, inshallah? The one who had a debt and a man who committed suicide. And the third one is a hadith said, the maghlul, the sahib of al-ghulul. Yeah, people prayed over him. People prayed over him. In the narration, people prayed over him. And that's another point I'm glad you mentioned. That is because although the imam or some people don't pray over him, others have to pray over him or everybody is sinning. So it's fard kifaya. Any more questions? Ikhwani? اتفضل. Everybody, أوتي النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم برجل قتل نفسه بمشاقيص ولم يصلي عليه. I thought it was more to that. There's more to it than this hadith that the companions prayed over him. I'll find the rest of it, okay? Concerning the explanations of As-Sunnah, there is one by Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabiri. There's one by Sheikh Abdulaziz al-Rajihi. There are quite a few voices in Arabic, in English though, in English. The one by Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabiri has been translated. But a lot of people have made the tahqiq and the takhrij and the khidmah of the book in Arabic. And it's been explained a lot in tapes, Arabic sites. Any more questions? Okay, inshallah, we stop here. Asking Allah Azza wa Jalla an yataqabbal minna wa minkum ahsan Allah ilaykum wa barakallahu fikum.